Sorry for the delay, but better late than never. Let's go ahead and talk about week 3 of the 2017 NFL season. One thing of note, and I'm not going to talk about protest and crap yet. We'll talk about that later. The overall buzz surrounding the league in general this past week was great, and for that obvious reason. I will say this. This was easily the best week in terms of quality of play this year for the league. Now, there were still plenty of wipeouts, plenty of blowouts, plenty of uninteresting games, but you did have several close, competitive, down-to-the-wire type of games that made week 3 a much more interesting, compelling, and intriguing week than we had the previous 2, and let's hope we get more of these weeks as the season goes along. Now, in terms of winners and losers for week number 3, winners, I got to go Minnesota Vikings. Fragile knee Sam wasn't playing. Case Keenum was terrible last week against the Steelers, so you're thinking maybe they'll be terrible again, facing up against Jameis and the Buccaneers. And Case Keenum had a great day. The Vikings played well defensively. Their offense made some explosive plays happen. And now you're talking about a Vikings team that, yeah, they're 2-1, but they showed that they could win a game with their backup quarterback against another potential playoff team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a good quality win for the Minnesota Vikings. I look at the Houston Texans. Even in the loss, sometimes you can be a winner. And the fact that the Houston Texans were able to go on the road to New England, stick a game to the Patriots, get some big plays out of their defense, get some big plays in particular out of the rookie quarterback, Deshaun Watson. You know, even though he made some mistakes, he made some things happen, and he made some plays happen, and he had his team in a position to win that game late until some bad luck and Tom Brady ultimately struck. The Houston Texans, even though they lost, and even though now they're 1-2, have to feel a little bit better about themselves going forward because Deshaun showed them something, and they showed that they could contend with a team that's at the creme de la creme of the National Football League, let alone just the AFC. And then I also look at the Atlanta Falcons and the Kansas City Chiefs. Say what I've wanted to say about them, whatever. The fact is there are only 2 3-0 teams in the league, and it's those 2 teams. Think about that. All these other teams are 0-2, 0-3, 1-1 in a couple of cases, 1-2, 2-1. There are only 2 teams that are undefeated after 3 weeks of the NFL season. That's crazy. It's Atlanta and it's Kansas City. Good for you. In terms of the losers this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers, as I referenced in the Week 3 picks video. The Steelers every year do this crap where they go on the road and play a bad team and lose to them. They have no business losing to them. That's exactly what happened. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback, arguably the best wide receiver and arguably the best running back in the league. The Steelers have no business going into Soldier Field and losing to a team that's intentionally trying to hide their quarterback. That's just nuts. And that's why the Steelers aren't thought of more as a contending team because they do crap like this. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after their big blowout Week 1 victory over the Bears, they go into Minnesota and Case Keenum shreds them. Can't happen. The Miami Dolphins, all I'll say is you went to New Jersey technically, and got your asses handed to you by the clearly tanking New York Jets. How's that Jay Cutler experience going? And then the biggest loser of the week ultimately is Donald Trump. And it's not even so much a political perspective thing. It is more so you have U.S. citizens that are struggling and suffering, whether it be in Florida, whether it be in Houston, Texas, or whether it be in Puerto Rico. All these citizens need all this help, all these other important things to talk about in the world. And this imbecile, this nincompoop, this con man is talking about a NFL player and calling him a son of a bitch. Where are the priorities, people? Is this really the most important thing on your mind? That's just ludicrous. That's just asinine. And the fact that come Sunday, I look to something like the NFL as a refuge to get away from the daily reminder of what this country ultimately did. And now I get a reminder slapping me square in the face. It's not the protest or anything else that would get me to stop watching the NFL or even the lack of quality of play. It's the fact of I don't want to come watch football on Sunday and still have to fucking hear about Donald Trump. This is supposed to be my sanctuary, my escape, and even this is being taken away from me. The ultimate loser of this week. Instead of focusing on bigger issues, he's tweeting about flag protests and fucking NFL players. Fuck fuck Donald Trump. And now let's get to 4th and 10. The Rams and 49ers played one of the best games of the season on Thursday night, which is kind of sad and an indictment on the league, but it is what it is. Even though that game wasn't even really all that close and competitive, it just had a lot of offense for a Thursday night game. It's a freaking miracle. But now at 2-1, people are starting to ask the question, can the Rams, behind first-year head coach Sean McVay, second-year quarterback Jared Goff, actually go on to win the NFC West? And a couple of weeks ago, I would have thought this was crazy talk and overreaction and everything else. But the fact is, Arizona stinks without David Johnson. The 49ers are irrelevant in that division, and they're bad. And the Seattle Seahawks look terrible. And as much as it's easy to dismiss it and just automatically say, nah, the Seahawks will figure it out and they'll pull it together, you have to start to take the Rams a little bit serious, because that NFC West is doo-doo. The Jaguars destroyed the Ravens in London Sunday morning, 44-7. I want you to think about this. This is even with the handicap of Blake Bortles as their starting quarterback. Imagine how good this Jaguars team could potentially be if they had a real starting quarterback. The funny thing is, though, is they actually had the better quarterback on the field in London, because that Ravens offense was terrible and Joe Flacco was horrible. I have to give my props to Jordan Howard, the star running back for the Chicago Bears. This is a guy that was clearly hurt on Sunday. He had a sprained AC joint. You could see, especially as you got into the fourth quarter, it was really bothering him. He was trying to avoid taking hits with it. He was avoiding trying to move it as much as possible. He went out of the game a couple of times because he landed on it bad, and this dude still manned up, ran for over 130 yards, and scored the winning touchdown for the Bears. That's, to me, what a franchise player does. Even when he's not at his best, he finds a way to elevate his game, and in this case, overcome the fact that the Bears are trying to, again, hide their starting quarterback. I salute Jordan Howard because he manned up and bared down in a big way this week. The rules are what the rules are, but ultimately, it sucks for the Detroit Lions, because no matter what, that's not a way for a football game to end, and it just ultimately feels like, right or wrong, they got freaking screwed. Congratulations, New York Jets organization. You won a damn football game. Good for you. Don't do it again. You suck for Sam, you job for Josh, and you don't win another fucking football game this year, because only the New York Jets in a clear tank mode would find a way to win just enough games to not get themselves the #1 overall pick, because even the Jets would screw up tanking. So let me get this straight. For all the crap that the NFL and the officials can worry about, we're going to focus on Von Miller with his oopsie-daisies handshake and penalize him 15 yards. No wonder we call it the No Fun League, because of bullshit like this. That deserved a 15-yard penalty? Give me a break. I won't lie. When Odell Beckham Jr. scored that touchdown Sunday, and he got on all fours and he lifted up his leg like he was peeing in the middle of the fucking end zone, I popped. I laughed my ass off. That said, though, Odell, you're a special player. I'm a big fan of what you do on the field. But it's this type of stupid crap that has to cut out. Your team is down. You're already 0-2 on the season. I understand you're excited. I understand you want to celebrate. But at some point in time, get fucking control of yourself. Because the team should not have to eat a 15-yard penalty for this foolishness. And oh, by the way, it takes away from all the spectacular things you do when you do dumb, funny crap like this. And ultimately, your team still freaking lost anyways. It's stupid. It's not that hard. Get better fucking control of yourself and grow up, period. A major theme of week 3 for me in the NFL is how several playoff teams, including a couple of teams viewed as real Super Bowl contenders, looked like crap this week. Sure, New England and Green Bay found ways to win, but ultimately, listen to what I said, they found ways to win. They did not look good, especially the Packers taking on a crappy Bengals team. But you had Oakland go to Washington to get smoked. Seattle go to Tennessee, and the score doesn't reflect it. They got smoked. Tampa went to Minnesota. They got smoked. Pittsburgh went to freaking Chicago, and they got smoked. The measure of good teams sometimes is being able to go on the road and win in hostile environments. And in some cases, being able to find a way to defend your home field. New England and Green Bay did that, but they shouldn't be proud of that because they look terrible. But these other teams, Pittsburgh, Oakland, Seattle, Tampa Bay, they need to do a little bit of soul searching after their Week 3 performances. Trying to cope with the over-politicalization of my football, I play DraftKings. And I had a decision with the Sunday night, Monday night primetime contest that I always play every week, and I've had some success with in the past. I had one decision that I was really struggling with. Do I play Amari Cooper against what should be a good matchup, knowing Crabtree's had a couple of bigger games? Usually that balances out then, and Cooper has a game. Or do I play a Dez Bryant who hasn't looked good against an Arizona Cardinals defense that has Patrick Peterson? The logic indicated play Amari Cooper. So I did. I won $130. The bad news, folks, is Amari Cooper didn't do shit. If I had played Dez Bryant, I would have won $10,000. So if you think you had a frustrating or disappointing or bad weekend, think about what happened with me and the money that I didn't win because of one decision, and stick that in your pipe and smoke it. And finally, to bring it home, I've got to talk about it because Donald Trump's comments and the anthem protest were the predominant story of the week, and everybody knows it. So I'm just going to chime in with my thoughts. The whole thing about people interlocking arms, I think is dumb. That's not protesting anything, showing unity. I'll give me a freaking break. Twitter was sitting there celebrating people like Shad Khan, who donated over $1 million to Donald Trump's inauguration ceremony, not to mention, I'm sure, other money during the campaign. You don't get to sit there and donate to the guy, then protest against it because you're upset because he talks shit about your players. Give me a freaking break. Some of the players that'll sit there and, again, put their hand on the shoulder of the guy or lock the arms, but they don't have the courage to kneel. They're freaking punks. They're cowards. Either do it all the way or don't do it at all. Stop telling me about the courage of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the fact that they didn't go out there and how that's some great freaking statement. It wasn't. It was the Steelers' attempt to avoid making a statement and avoid dealing with it. Although, honestly, I can't freaking blame them. Like the Seahawks and Titans not going out there for it. I understand, because to me, ultimately, you can't sit there and talk about this and that and everything else and talk about how dare we disrespect this and disrespect that. You do realize that these NFL games show the national anthem and these other pro-military things because the freaking government takes your taxpayer dollars and pays for these propaganda pieces, right? So give me a freaking break. As far as the players protesting and their right to protest, technically, yes, they have free speech rights. Similar to those freaking skinheads and white supremacists in Charlottesville. To me, when it's peaceful, you have the right to say what you want. When you don't resort to violence and so forth, the First Amendment, the free speech protections are about protecting popular and especially unpopular speech. So to me, there is a constitutional right that flag is allegedly supposed to represent for everybody, where you have the right to speak your mind without fear of retribution. So these players taking a knee are exercising their First Amendment rights. Now, in the real world, I wish I could protest things like the NFL players are. I don't have the same platforms. Other people don't have those same platforms. So let's not just automatically act like they are 100% entitled to it just because they are American citizens to protest those rights. Because the fact is, a lot of us in the working world, like if I had a corporate function, they played the national anthem for whatever reason, and I decided to take a knee, it's killing my career and I might end up getting fired, or they'll find an excuse to fire me. I'm just saying that's the reality of the world. So I'm glad these guys have the platform and are able to use it. But again, it might not be the way I would approach it, because ultimately the message isn't about what they're protesting, which is not the flag and not the fucking troops. And if you think so, you're stupid. It is about the inequality and treatment of blacks in particular by the police. It's about inequality across the board, and they're valid points. And to sit there and make it about the disrespecting the flag and disrespecting the troops is crap. because ultimately that flag is supposed to represent freedom for all, which of course it never really truly has, but people naively believe that it does, or usually it's just white people that think that the world revolves around them. But it also is not about disrespecting the troops, because several of these guys have family that serve in the military, and sometimes these military members are black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, Arab, whatever the case might be. When they come back, they're still treated like shit, even though they were veterans. So don't give me that disrespecting the troops crap. And if you're the type of person that gets all butthurt about this and calls other people snowflakes when they complain about something, but you're the one acting like a snowflake now, talking about how you're going to boycott the NFL and you're going to protest the NFL, get a life. It's not just free speech when it's convenient. Free speech is free speech across the board. Granted, yes, it can be annoying. And honestly, yes, the whole issue, the whole thought, the whole topic is fucking annoying to me, because I come to football as a sanctuary to get away from the stupidity of the current commander-in-chief and just the stupidity of this country as a whole. I want my football to be my sanctuary, and instead it's become this political hotbed. And I know politics have always been a part of sports over the years, but to this length and to this degree, eventually it gets annoying, and I've had enough from all sides and all freaking spectrums. But then you've got people too that are sitting there, and they'll go to like a NASCAR race and they'll frickin' fly their Confederate flag high and proud. Don't you dare talk about these black players taking a knee during the national anthem that was written by a racist slaveholder about a flag that has represented so many bad things over the generations, over the centuries, by holding your Confederate flag, which represents treason. You want to talk about disrespecting the flag? Granted, again, it is part of your constitutional right and free speech, but kneeling during a national anthem is much less disrespectful than flying a Confederate flag in reference to the American flag. And if you can't understand or see the difference, you are a moron. And then the people that were sitting there applauding Shad Khan for being arm in arm in his players, give me a damn break. The dude was donating to Donald Trump's campaign. You can't donate to the freaking dude and then get mad when he does this stupid crap that you knew he was doing all along. You supported it. You helped enable it. You wanted it. So you need to deal with the consequences, and people need to stop making heroes out of them. People trying to make heroes out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, they didn't stay in the locker room to make a statement. They stayed in the locker room to avoid making a statement, to not get caught up with it. And ultimately, I understand and I get it, and I don't disagree with it, but let's call it for what it was. The Seahawks and Titans choosing what they did was more of them making a statement. The Steelers doing what they did was a way to try to avoid it, because they've never, I believe, had a player kneel, in part because of Alejandro Villanueva, who, of course, because he was out there standing by himself for the national anthem, all of a sudden he instantly became the top jersey seller in the NFL, and it is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. God bless it all. This country is so damn stupid. And ultimately, I hate to say it, but all these protests, I'm glad these guys got the platform, and I'm glad they're exercising their free speech rights, and I'm glad they're able to do so. It's not going to matter. The shit is not going to change. And it sucks, but that's the way it is. And for these people that are so upset by it and so hurt by it, I hope you choose to not fly your Confederate flags anymore. And I would hope that you would be the type that is against sending people to fight foreign wars for them to come back and then struggle the rest of their life with PTSD and other physical maladies that came as a direct result of their service, to where we send them off to fight and that's fine, but when they come back, they're all on their fucking own. Because if you're that type of person, then fuck you. You're even more disrespectful than somebody that kneels during the national anthem that was written by a slaveholder. Give me a break. This whole thing is stupid and ridiculous. Kneeling during the anthem, unfortunately, is not going to change anything. I wish it did, but it's not. Protesting and saying, hey, if these players can't exercise their rights, I'm going to boycott the NFL. That also makes absolutely no damn sense. So you're going to help a league that is dominated by the black athlete, where the majority of the players are black. You're going to support these black players by not buying any of the merchandise from the league, by not going to the games, by not watching them. How does that make any sense? So you're undercutting the very guys you're trying to support. And then the whole thing of boycotting the games because of this, give me a freaking break. If you can't deal with a couple of minutes of freaking annoyance to move on to the greater thing, then good riddance to you anyways. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned at this point in time, everybody kind of needs to get over themselves a little bit. We have become a nation of crybabies and bitches and snowflakes. And it seems like it's everybody across the board. Whether you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, doesn't matter. Everybody needs to man up, woman up, nut up, cunt up, and get over them fucking selves and stop bitching and bitching and bitching. Shit gets old. And in the meantime, I would like to get back to some place of normalcy. Stop having the television show all these anthem protests because they know what they're trying to do. Stop showing the national anthem beforehand instead of player introductions. Just let me enjoy football. I know this country sucks. And I know there's inequality. I know all of these things. I don't need football to be yet another reminder of that. I'm looking for it to be one of my few escapes in this world. I want that back, and I need that back.